I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my brothers? Hope you guys are doing well, doing blessed, having a good day, having a good week. UFC fight night, Yusuff versus Barboza. Before we make predictions, may we check my bets from last weekend. We had a nice card, we won some money. One bet away from a clean sweep, but Mendoza and Grant Dawson got dusted. Besides that losing ticket though, the rest of the tickets, complete money. Started with JJ Aldrich at plus 140 and Arichi Leng at plus 100, and my other bet was Dober and Pythar, a super early parlay which closed around minus 200. Now guys, the contender series, I'm not gonna lie, from an entertainment perspective I will miss it. From a gambling perspective I will not miss it. I will not miss this show. A massive shout out to the brother Litz from our Discord group, who essentially said to the bookmaker, look, I make the lines now. I make the lines. And the bookmaker had no option but to say, okay, you're going to turn $55 into 4 digits. Okay, you make the lines. Absolute madness. Let's go. Now moving into the MoneyCity comments, shout out to all the homies that smacked the MoneyCity plays. And of course, Sean is here again. Guys, I'll tell you what's so impressive about Sean. Not only does he keep smacking all of these MoneyCity plays, but he's always the first to post a comment. Like, he's the first one to post a MoneyCity comment, and he smacks them every week. Guys, if I brought my videos out on Sunday, I think Sean would have his info ready on Sunday. Absolute madness. Let's go. Alright, moving into a matchup between Ashley Yoder taking on Emily Ducote. And guys, sometimes my breakdowns can be harsh, but I mean no disrespect, nothing personal. When it comes to gambling, we've got to break down these fighters in a way that's truthful. And in my opinion, Ashley Yoder is arguably one of the worst fighters on the roster and has been for a while. Her jiu-jitsu isn't bad. She just doesn't have stopping power. Same as Johnny Munoz. And that's something you've got to do when you go to the cage. You know, put violent intentions into your strikes. And we don't really see that from Ashley Yoder. Now on the flip side, you've got Emily Ducote, who had a really good UFC debut. Showcased an effective calf kick against Jessica Penne. However guys, looking at Ducote after that UFC debut, she got given Angela Hill and Lupi Godinez, and these matchups were difficult. They were difficult matchups. Now this time around she's got Ashley Yoder, who's more on the same skill level as Jessica Penne and probably lower than Jessica Penne in terms of skill. So my prediction with this matchup is going to be Ducote to essentially be more efficient, more violent, and essentially win the matchup because of that. So yeah, Ducote's a better striker, good calf kicks, good wrestling, and like I said, Yoder's not that good. Alright, moving into a matchup between Chris Gutierrez taking on HeiliAlateng, and this is going to be striker versus wrestler. Now Chris Gutierrez is one of the best calf kickers in the UFC. Time and time again we've seen Chris Gutierrez put on a striking clinic, specifically with the kicks. However, anytime you're competing against somebody that wants to wrestle, wants to bring you to the mat, now you've got a decision to make. Do I want to keep throwing the same amount of kicks that I normally throw if the wrestler's willing to catch a kick? Now guys, I don't see Chris Gutierrez completely eliminating all of his kicks, because if he does that, he's basically getting rid of his whole game. Charles Jourdain isn't a kicker by trade, but he does kick. Against Kron Gracie, he completely got rid of all of his kicks and just boxed. But like I said, I don't see Chris Gutierrez completely getting rid of all of his kicks. He should be willing to mix it up. And what I basically mean by that is anytime Alateng is anticipating the kicks, now is a good time for Gutierrez to open up with his boxing, you know, really mix it up. So yeah, in my opinion, the better pick, the better play would be Chris Gutierrez, but looking at the money line is super juiced. Alright, moving into a matchup between Irina Alekseeva taking on Melissa Dixon. Now guys, Irina Alekseeva, I want to start this breakdown by saying I owe Irina an apology, because I remember delivering a really harsh breakdown for her UFC debut, and she delivered an absolute madness, rolling into a knee bar against Stephanie Egger. And guys, Stephanie Egger has seasoned grappling, so to do that against Egger, I really have to hold my hands up, you know, credit to Alekseeva. She was really active with her strikes, her kicks, her punches, mixing it up really well. And she looked quick with all those strikes. But one thing I will say is it was somewhat of a reckless approach. Unpredictable, yes, but also reckless. So you can kind of, you know, compare those two things. You know, reckless is not good, but unpredictable, that's good. Now on the flip side, we've got Melissa Dixon, who's going to be making her UFC debut. She's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu and also a Muay Thai striker that seems to be more composed than Alekseeva. And that makes for an interesting matchup because Alekseeva is going to be bringing the fight to Melissa. There's two completely different paces. Alekseeva wants the fight to happen straight away, whereas Melissa Dixon's more willing to wait for our openings, wait for the opportunities to present themselves. Now guys, one of the main reasons why I'm going to side with the newcomer, Melissa Dixon, is that if Alekseeva's reckless in round 1 and uses a lot of energy, this could really backfire against somebody that's willing to be patient. And that's really what I see in the game of Melissa Dixon. You know, not as entertaining to watch, but considered more normal than the madness of Alekseeva. So my prediction is going to be Melissa Dixon to win her UFC debut and potentially by stoppage. Alright, moving into a matchup between Terrance McKinney taking on Brendon Marotte. Now guys, if Brendon Marotte can survive round 1, his chances improve massively. Terrance McKinney is shown to be a round 1 or bust type of fighter multiple times, so the main objective when competing against Terrance McKinney would be to make it outside of round 1. Now you start to find success. However guys, it's going to come down to picking and choosing which fighters are likely to survive the McKinney storm and which fighters are more likely to get dusted inside of round 1. But my prediction is going to be Brendon Marotte is the type of fighter to get dusted by Terrance McKinney, so give me T-Rex with a round 1 stoppage. And moving into a matchup between Tainara Lisboa taking on Ravena Oliveira. Now guys, Tainara Lisboa is a credentialed Muay Thai player who actually won her UFC debut via submission against multiple time tested UFC fighter Jessica Rose Clark. Tainara's hands were really nasty. Like every time Jessica Rose Clark blitzed in or threw a combination, Lisboa would essentially return fire pretty much every time, and there was multiple times where she cracked Jessica Rose Clark. Now guys, Tainara Lisboa is actually getting a step down in competition. Ravena Oliveira isn't technically better than Lisboa. I think she's got to push Tainara against the fence, clinch up, or hope for like a clean connection, because outside of that, I think Lisboa is going to do some nasty damage. And I'm pretty confident that Tainara Lisboa can find a stoppage. Now, it is women's mixed martial arts, so you can never be too confident. But I am pretty confident with this matchup. I mean, Lisboa is getting a step down from Jessica Rose Clark. So to lose this matchup, it would really not make sense. And I know a lot of the time, women's mixed martial arts, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I'm confident. I'm confident that Lisboa is a better Muay Thai striker than Ravena Oliveira. And like I said, the counter strikes of Lisboa against Jessica Rose Clark, there was multiple times where she cracked her clean. So yeah, give me Lisboa to stop Ravena Oliveira. Alright, moving into a matchup between Darren Elkins taking on TJ Brown. Now guys, I said this on the last Darren Elkins breakdown and I'll say it again. Darren Elkins literally has the same striking defense as a blind man, but at the same time, extremely entertaining to watch. You know, who doesn't want to see someone willing to absorb every single strike their opponent throws? Now, Darren Elkins is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and he probably should rely on his grappling more than his striking, because when he strikes, he gets brain damage. He's taken a lot of brain damage over the years and probably shouldn't be competing anymore, you know, nearly 40 years old. Now, on the flip side, TJ Brown is primarily a wrestler. I'm not great at picking TJ Brown matchups. I don't have the best of reads on TJ Brown. But yeah, I think it's pretty safe to pick against Darren Elkins just on the basis that he's nearly 40 years old. And if anyone sprinkles a Darren Elkins submission or a late stoppage prop, that is pretty understandable, because that's what Darren's all about. You know, get beat up until the opponent gets tired. It's the Homer Simpson strategy. But yeah, in my opinion, TJ Brown, that's the pick. Not super confident. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. You've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks, that's always been a triple amen, gang. Let's go. Now guys, the smoke break question on this one, for all the people that watch the Contender series week in, week out, If I said to you guys, give me just one name from all the fighters that got contracts, just one name, and that name is the person that's going to go the furthest in the UFC in terms of fighting for a title or getting to the top 10. One name, just one name from the contender. Who is it? Just one. And guys, are you ready for Islam versus Volkanovski too? Are you ready? Oh my goodness. Alright, let's go. Alright, moving into a matchup between Christian Rodriguez taking on Cameron Simon. And guys, this is one of the best things about being a UFC fan. We don't typically have to wait for prospects to fight each other. Whereas in boxing, the prospects always padding their records, avoiding, you know, big matchups. In this situation here, both Christian Rodriguez and Cameron Simon are excellent prospects. Christian Rodriguez is coming off a win against Raul Rosas Jr., which is a massive win because Raul Rosas Jr. has a lot of hype. So yeah, that win really showed us just how good Christian Rodriguez really is, and Cameron Simon is so far undefeated in the UFC after beating Steve Kozlow, Manny Martinez and Terrance Mitchell. Guys, I would say Christian Rodriguez has the better boxing, but I think Cameron Simon can really mix up his weapons well. His cardio is very good. The boxing's good, the kicking's good, the combinations, you know, he's really composed. And it's not an easy matchup for either. You know, it's a tough fight for Christian, it's a tough fight for Cameron. But that's really what makes this matchup a must-see matchup. You know, you have to see this matchup. Both of these guys are prospects. I don't want to see Christian Rodriguez lose after beating Raul Rosas Jr. and I don't want to see Cameron Simon lose because he's undefeated so far. But that's what makes it a must-see matchup. Someone's got to lose. They're both prospects. I'm going to side with the underdog because it just seems, you know, it seems smart to go underdog or pass in a prospects matchup. So my prediction will be Cameron Simon, but the boxing of C-Rod is good. You know, Cameron Simon's got to be using his speed. You know, mix up the attacks. Essentially keep Christian Rodriguez guessing, but also stay composed. You know, mix up the attacks, but stay composed. And he does do that. He's very composed for 21, 22 years old. Can't wait though. This one's going to be a banger. I'm going to side with the underdog. Alright, moving into a matchup between Edgar Chairez taking on Daniel Lacerda. And guys, Chairez already won this matchup. He's already won this matchup. If the ref stops the fight 2 seconds later, instead of Lacerda protesting the stoppage, he would have just fell to the mat unconscious. However, that's not the situation, so we go again. We get to see this matchup again, and Daniel Lacerda's lucky for that. Now, I will say, Daniel Lacerda actually had a much better first round compared to his other first rounds in the UFC. He was more composed, thinking about his energy expenditure, but still, despite the improvements, he found himself getting choked at the end of round 1. So even if Chairez doesn't find a stoppage in round 1, I think it's pretty likely that he'd find a stoppage outside of round 1. Guys, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of you would agree with this, Daniel Lacerda is just not good enough to be in the UFC, and if Chairez goes in there and stops him again, that kind of proves it. So again, I'm going to pick Chairez to find a stoppage. And hopefully this time the ref can, you know, wait for the choke to be in. Or maybe it's a TKO. But again, I'm taking Chairez to find a stoppage. Alright, moving into a matchup between Michel Pereira taking on Andre Petroski, and this one's going to be capoeira versus wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So there's clear advantages for both fighters in completely different areas of the matchup, so really it comes down to where the fight takes place. If Pereira can stay doing crazy stuff on the feet, it's pretty likely that he would win those rounds or even find a stoppage. If Petroski can get easy takedowns on Pereira, not use too much energy striking, if Petroski can just have a perfect fight where he can instantly get takedowns, it's pretty likely that he'd win those rounds or even find a submission on the mat. It's really a matter of where the fight takes place, and I'd have to say chasing down Pereira for takedowns isn't going to be easy for Petroski. And I'd also say trying to find big punches on the feet for Petroski when he's forced to compete on the feet, it's not going to be easy for Petroski. So even the takedowns for Petroski, I think that's going to be difficult. I think the stand-up's going to be difficult. So for those reasons, I am going to side with Michel Pereira. And guys, it's also a short notice matchup for Petroski, so I kind of expect his cardio to potentially fail. And some people might say, well, Michel Pereira doesn't have good cardio. But in my opinion, it's more to do with energy expenditure. You know, the main reason why he gets tired is because all those crazy spinning techniques and the backflips and all that crazy stuff, it requires a lot of energy. So if Petroski instantly forces Pereira to grapple, starts to wear him down, instantly gets into the mat, then I think Petroski's a good underdog. But if that doesn't happen, and it's more likely, in my opinion, that it's going to be difficult to actually track down Pereira to even initiate the grappling. If that's the case, then I think Michel Pereira should do good, should do well. So yeah, guys, in my opinion, take the Brazilian, the striker, the Capoeira player. Alright, moving into a matchup between Jonathan Martinez taking on Adrian Yanez, and my goodness, what a matchup. Now guys, the matchup we just broke down was decided on where the matchup takes place, and this fight's kind of similar, but because they're both strikers, it's more of a battle of range. Martinez is primarily a kicker, and Yanez is primarily a boxer, so this is going to be kicking versus boxing. If Martinez is at kick range, then he's the better pick. If Yanez is constantly able to take away the space that Martinez wants to work with and forces Martinez to exchange in the pocket, then in that situation, Yanez is the better pick, the better play. And guys, these are two of my favourite strikers in the UFC. It's a shame someone's got to lose, but at the same time, this is what makes the UFC so good. We don't have to wait for these matchups. These matchups are always given to us. There's no way I'm going to be betting against either of these guys. I think they're both really good strikers in their own way. Like I said, Dragon Martinez more of a kicker, Yanez more of a boxer. But guys, typically when we've got matchups where it's boxing versus kicking, the boxer has to stay in that range. You know, got to stay in boxing range, because if you're not in boxing range against somebody that's got a kicking skill set, your boxing's not going to be effective. You know, so the boxer has to be in that range. Now guys, in my opinion, when you've got a matchup where one person's a diverse striker, the other one's a really good boxer, for the most part, the diverse striker seems to get the better of the boxer. So I think it's going to be a slightly more difficult matchup for Yanez, but Yanez is a better boxer. It's all about the range. If Yanez can get into range, boxing range, he's going to dust Dragon Martinez. If Dragon Martinez can keep him at the end of the kicks, he's going to dust Yanez. This is a high level striking matchup. I'm not going to be betting it. You've got to spark the blunt, just chill on this matchup. But I'm going to side with Dragon Martinez. Alright, moving into the co-main event, we've got Jennifer Maia taking on Viviane Araujo. This is going to be Brazilian versus Brazilian in the co-main event. Jennifer Maia is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but also likes to really sit down on her punches. She's got some power in her hands, and she's currently on a 2-fight winning streak. I sided with her at plus money against Marina Moroz, but I didn't side with her at plus money against Casey O'Neill, which was a massive mistake, because she absolutely dusted Casey O'Neill with the boxing. Now, Viviane Araujo's got much better footwork and boxing than Casey O'Neill, so if Jennifer Maia can find the same type of success this time round, it would be massively impressive. Now, one weakness of Viviane's game would be she hasn't got the best cardio. More than once, Vivi has shown to basically fatigue in a fight, and the reason for that is the footwork and explosiveness of Vivi essentially results in her fatiguing midway into round 2. However guys, I am going to be siding with the underdog. I think Vivi could cause problems for Maia with her footwork, but it is a really tough matchup for both girls. Like, if you're Jennifer Maia, you've got to find a home for your strikes, and that's not going to be as easy this time round as it was against Marina Moroz and also Casey O'Neill. Vivi's much quicker than both of those girls. She hits harder, she's more dynamic, and moves her feet better than both of those girls. So although Jennifer Maia's done really well in both those matchups, it's going to be difficult to find the same level of success. But like I said, Vivi slows down, she gasses, she gets tired. And if she gets tired, then Jennifer Maia's going to start teeing off. Decent co-main event, guys. I'm going to side with the underdog, Viviane Araujo. Alright, moving into the main event, we've got Sodiq Yusuff taking on Edson Barboza. An absolute banger of a main event. Now, guys, I think Edson Barboza is one of these guys you don't really want to fade. Even though he's getting a bit older, he's 37 years old now. He's still one of the best strikers. His cardio's not the best, so in a 5-round fight, there's an extra 10 minutes to be had. And I wouldn't really want to rely on Barboza in rounds 4 and 5 at this point in his UFC career. On the flip side, you've got Sodiq Yusuff, who's absolutely getting the biggest test of his UFC career. If we're looking at Sodiq Yusuff's resume, it's fair to say Arnold Allen was his biggest test so far, which I did side with Arnold Allen at plus money. Now guys, Barboza's not going to be as accurate with his boxing compared to Arnold Allen. We know Edson Barboza prefers to kick the opponent over trying to outbox the opponent. So Yusuff has to dictate the range and the pace. If he can make Barboza move a lot, strike a lot, react a lot, more than likely Edson Barboza gets tired and potentially gets stopped. Now if Sodiq Yusuff respects Barboza too much and doesn't look to dictate the range of the fight or the pace of the fight, more than likely Edson Barboza is going to be just fine, which isn't going to be good for Sodiq Yusuff. But I'm going to side with Sodiq Yusuff to find a stoppage in either round 3 or round 4. I wouldn't be shocked to be wrong because Barboza's a Muay Thai legend. But I'm going to be siding with Sodiq Yusuff in the biggest matchup of his UFC career and also his first main event. Now Grant Dawson recently got embarrassed in his first main event. I don't think Sodiq Yusuff can do any worse than Grant Dawson, so there's that. But yeah, give me Super Sodiq in the main event against Edson Barboza. As always guys, drop down your main event, your co-main event, your parlays, your straight bets, your MoneyCity plays, all that good stuff. Drop in the comment section below. And as always, keep your eyes to the sky and never glued to your shoes. Peace.